Yes. Yeah.
Well, hi, I'm happy to be with you. I hope the cookies, you're enjoying the cookies. And the book came out in, 2023? No, 2022. So since the book came out, I've been talking to a lot of different communities, mostly of dancers, but I've also been to senior centers and libraries and been with non-dancers as well. And it's been really just an amazing journey in seeing how my story, sharing my story, opens up other people to sharing their story, whether they're dancers or not, but of course, it is a dance memoir. So I would love to just open this up as a discussion, and maybe before I dive into all of my questions that I have for you, we can start with any questions that you have for me. I know you've all read the book from beginning to end at this point. So does anyone have any questions before I dive into my questions for you? I'm happy to talk about my process, the writing process, career, rejection, dreams, Pilates, yeah.
Did you ever think that you were gonna write a book?
No. Well, you know what, it's funny, because when I was younger, I did write, like in 4th grade, I wrote Funky Fran. And I still have Funky Friends, so I was always into writing and interested in writing. I'm a big reader, always was a big reader. And I think since I started learning in 1st grade how to read, I've been reading a book ever since. So I just am always reading something. So I guess it's not like, it would be more of a surprise if I was like, got a pilot license or, something like that. So it was, it's part of my story, but I never ever thought that I would have a published book. But I can tell you that when I was really in the depths of being at the bottom of my life, and you guys have read about all of the rejection, all of the physical pain, the fire, this, all this stuff, it was really important to me that everybody knew what I was going through. I just wanted everybody to know. So I wanted everyone to, I didn't want to just like disappear, or what I felt like was be disappearing. I wanted everyone to know my story. Do you mind just telling me your names? Wait.
Emily?
Emily, okay, sorry.
And Allison.
Hi.
Bear with me here. I feel like making sure what I'm doing in life and like career-wise is not only fulfilling but like substantial, but it's just always been very important that things are meaningful to me. And I feel like as we go through the book, like you find that for yourself, you have like a pivotal moment that kind of made everything click. Like I need to do. How can I have both, but have my dreams that I have? Do you see what I'm trying to say?
What was that moment for you when you were reading? Because we may have different opinions of what that moment was.
Oh, I can't. It was when it was when we were trying to get your Pilates certification, and you were
Okay.
like, oh, like everyone is so much more invested than I am. Like I'm just here to
Right.
do it, like to have something to support me, and like I feel like you knew what was going to be fulfilling for you.
I see what you're saying. So I knew right off the bat that this wasn't gonna fulfill me, but it was a step to get to what would fulfill me. That's how I felt in that moment, but it's interesting that you felt differently in that moment, that you felt like that was the moment that I found something meaningful, or?
It was the moment that you kind of realized, like, not the moment, but one of the moments where you're like, my path is different than the people around me. And like, people, like, my best friend is succeeding in a way that I want to succeed, but I'm not getting that. But what will fulfill me?
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Do you feel like that impacted or related to your personal story?
I feel like it just kind of reinforced like my life always been like I don't know what I went to school for anything dancing, so I'm not gonna try to go to school for anything else because I know it's not gonna make me happy, it's not gonna be fulfilling. And like eventually I figured out other things that I actually about.
Yeah, because I heard you say I want to do things that are meaningful, like that's important to you. Just something that I heard you say that I hope that you just continue on that path to find things that are meaningful for you. I didn't answer your question.
That's kind of like talking out loud.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Yeah.
This is like,
Sorry, say your name first.
Alec.
Alec. Dance memoirs or books in general? I'm gonna say dance memoirs because I wanna support my fellow dance memoirists. So my favorite, actually books to read, I think, in general, and I do read a lot of memoir, are not celebrity memoirs, not people that are super famous, but I like to read about just, regular people. So one of my favorite dance memoirs, that got very little attention is called, Not About Madonna, and it's by this woman, Whit Hill, and I'm gonna tell you this as I'm, in my writing process, when I was reading dance memoirs, as soon as I finished, I would reach out to the author. Hey, I'm working on my own dance memoir, and that helped me build up a network that would help me later on. So just wanted to plant that seed for a second. So, and now I'm paying it back to her by recommending her book to a group of excited readers. So her book, Not About Madonna, she was Madonna's roommate at UMichigan. I don't know if you know Madonna was a modern dancer and majored in dance at University of Michigan. I know, what? So this is by her roommate who talks about what it was like to be Madonna's roommate, but really it's more about her story. She was a modern dancer, but like sort of more of a performance artist. And she ended up making this piece, the one piece that sort of got her attention, called Not About Madonna, where she would sit on a stage, set a timer for 10 minutes, and you could ask anything you want to ask about Madonna, and then the timer went off and that was it. She would go do her weird like performance art stuff after that. So her memoir was really interesting because yes, it is about her being, in some quirky things, and it was respectful to Madonna. But really her story, I really enjoyed. There's another one called Dancer Interrupted by Susan Primer. Actually, if you're interested, I did make a list of these memoirs.
That'd be great.
Yeah, I actually made a PDF, like let me write myself up. I did it a while ago, which I can get to. Those are the two that pop into my head right away. So yeah, that's my beginning list. Those are my two recent favorite dance memoirs.
Hi, I'm Trinity. How long did the process take you? Like, did you write it over a long period of time? Did you do it all in one go? Because I know people have different processes.
Yeah, I love this question. I love talking about this because I just started with, and Amy was just showing me her grading book, how it's like a, old school. So I still have old school assignment, like a calendar or whatever. So I would, in the subway, always be writing in the margins, basically bitching about my Pilates clients and writing stories about them. She would let me use the bathroom, and I thought that I was gonna write this, like a Pilates diaries kind of book. Nanny Diaries had just come out. So I'm like, I'm gonna expose the industry and my clients, and I had this whole thing. So I had started by writing the margins, and I put those notes, and I would just write stories. And so and then I had this idea that I think there's 26 Pilates mat exercises. So I was gonna organize them, have 26 chapters of different stories. That's what I had in my head. And then I went to a writing coach, my first writing coach, and I had a lot. And she said, why aren't you writing about your dance life? It occurred to me to write about my dance life. And then the floodgates really opened. And then I ended up having more chapters. So I would have a homeless chapter, a grounded chapter, about my old dance teachers. All the stuff started coming out that I kept deep inside. But still, it was all separate. I had another writing coach who was in one of my Pilates classes actually at Penguin, because I taught at Penguin Publishing. So I found her, and she took all my stories and she put them around the room. We went up to my parents' house upstate, and she just stacked them all around, and then we started putting them in some kind of order. And then from that, started to work on a through line. So that process was very long. I would say that process was a few years. Then the process after that, once you have something, and I was trying to get an agent, that process took a little while. And by the time I got the agent, I always tell the story, my daughter was 3 weeks old. And when the book came out, she turned 10. So a lot happened in between that. I had an agent, I lost the agent, I did, all this stuff. But I never changed the manuscript. I kept it. Because when I did have an agent, part of what was great about having an agent is she had already done an enormous amount of editing so that they could send it out. But why didn't it get published then? Because who's Karen Talibaum? She's no Misty Copeland, who is she? No one cares. So that's a long story. So that I would say the entire process, from starting to write the margins to having it published, is probably around 15 years. It's not like dance. But then the best thing is that I have this, and it can never go away, so it lives forever, so it's worth the 15 years. Any other questions?
Do you ever like still feel like all like the negative emotions that you felt throughout this? Like do you ever still feel like frustrated that you had to do Pilates for that long?
I'm still doing Pilates.
Like
I'm
maybe
still
you
doing
didn't
it.
enjoy it.
I don't enjoy it. Yes, I still have a lot of those feelings. What the difference is that I know how to ride the waves of those feelings, and they're not keeping me down. I'm not drowning underneath those feelings. I'm riding right on top, which is the big difference. I was totally drowning before, and I'm not drowning anymore. So that's a big difference. But do I have, do I get upset when I'm still rejected from things? Yes. Am I constantly rejected from things? Yes. Even having, my book is published by a small publisher. I always think, oh, if I only had this, and be able to get, Nydia was just saying, like, why wasn't your book in Barnes & Nobles? I'm like, oh, why isn't it Barnes & Nobles? Like, you have to order it. Why can't it be on the shelf? Like, if I had more money behind the book, it would be on every shelf. So I still have those feelings. Definitely. But I have a lot of better feelings too.
Hi, I'm Taryn. Also about emotions. In writing the book, did you discover any memories that you didn't think that you would remember, or any unresolved emotions from them? And then did it bring a sense of closure?
So that's a good question. I think the idea of criticism being a compliment in dance. I knew it, but I didn't feel it. And I knew all the pain that I had in my hand, but I didn't really allow myself to feel it. What did it really feel like to be that little girl and have my leg out like this and not be able to touch it when everyone else was lying with their bellies on their legs? And what that really viscerally felt like, and emotionally, what that felt like, because I stuffed it so deep. I think I don't want to use the word forgive, but I understand myself in a much deeper way, and why. It's funny that you say, I think about this now, because when I was, my daughter's in 5th grade, and some of the catty stuff is starting to happen, and I was just very mean when I was in 5th grade. I was just mean. And I realized, and when I'm talking to my daughter about how do you deal with this stuff, I'm like, oh my gosh, I was on the other side of that. And I got it. Once I was in junior high, it came right back to me, but in 5th grade, I was the one being the mean one. And I think I was mean because I was hurt. People hurt people. I was hurting. And I stuffed everything down. And, I had parents that were like this, and, I had to do all this. So I think I understand myself better.
Are there any experiences you've had since publishing the book that you wish were in the book?
Ooh. Sequel. Oh, yeah. Ready for this? So I go to ADF, and I'm so excited because I never went to ADF. I was never at ADF before. And it just so happens that Bill T. Jones is performing. And I don't know if you remember in the book, I talk about the Bill T. Jones audition. So when I got published, and I had to go through this with the agent too, I had to get okays from everyone that's name I used in the book. There's sort of specific rules about it, and there's a lot of gray area. But I did get permission from almost everyone whose name's in the book. I had to ask Robert Battle, and I talk about sharing a bathroom with you, and it was disgusting. And I talk about, so it was some of those, and all the teachers that I talk about. Before I'm 18, I don't name any names, by the way. Those are all made up. Everything after 18 those are real names. So anyway, I did not get permission from Bill T. Jones because I didn't need to, because it wasn't a dialogue necessarily, blah, blah. So he's there, and I go to the performance, and I get invited to this after party, and okay, and I don't talk to him, I was just kind of keeping myself. And then finally someone introduced us, oh, this is Carrie. He's like, oh, the author, because he saw my picture. I was like, oh my gosh, yeah, the author, that's me. I'm like, yeah, I was like, actually, you're in my book. And he was like, thank you so much, thank you, that's wonderful. And I'm laughing at myself this guy thinks I'm writing some enamored thing about him. That's not what I wrote. And I wish I could have had that moment because I don't know if you remember the audition story, where instead of like saying he'll just shake your hand, and it was so impersonal, it was like so, I mean, I think it was an attempt maybe to be personal, but it felt horrible. And then he stands in front of me like, oh, you know, thank you so much. I'm like, oh, I can't wait for her to read the book and see that, you know. So that kind of a thing where like, it was flipped, where it wasn't like he was a god, like these dance people were gods to me. But the book, you know, when I finished the book, or the book ends, I'm married, it's before I have 2 kids, so it was married, I was married. The book was published, or was finished, sorry, before I got pregnant. So there's a lot of other stuff that's happened since that has nothing to do necessarily with the book. So I am happy that as one of my writing coaches encouraged me, if you never get published, you at least have a meticulous record of a certain period of your life. Which is, I think is great.
So your kids will read it someday.
Right, they've read the acknowledgements.
I don't know exactly how to word this, but like when we go through trauma, especially in the dance world, a lot of the time we want to suppress it and not, you know, keep it alive. But now that you have it in a book, it's kind of like always alive, if that makes sense. So like, how does that feel? Like always having it there with you, like it's changing you in some way?
That's a great question. I think I'm still grappling with that, but most of the time it feels really good. Because I'm not hiding anything, and the thing that I just didn't expect so many people to relate to it. I really thought that my feelings that I was having were like only my own. I really didn't get it, you know, and one of the most amazing conversations that I had when my book came out was with Anne Maria Mazzini, who, am I saying her name?
Yes.
Who Amy danced with, and she danced in the, do you know who she danced in the Paul Taylor Company? She had what I thought was like the career that I always wanted. Like I thought she had like a perfect, I had this idea of her. And she came out right away when my book came out, oh my God, I relate to it. I'm like, you? Like how do you relate to my book? Like I thought you were over here. And so I think by my sharing, it's opened up other people, and it makes me feel like a part of something, and not like I'm so isolated. And I think it also helps that I have, you know, years that have gone by since those traumas that I don't feel as intensely anymore. I can laugh about it. I mean, I could always laugh about it, but I can like really just with a whole heart laugh about it more. But I think the connection that it has brought is overwhelming. Yeah.
I also don't know how to word it. But do you feel like there are any life decisions that you've made, or it could be career, like anything that maybe you've settled for, like maybe they are for the only sense, but like you have this idea of like your dream life, your career, and obviously there's some things that are unattainable and some things that are very feasible, but like do you feel like you settle for anything that is maybe kind of like, any regrets or something?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I think it's been interesting the doors that have opened with my book, because, you know, if I had maybe reached out to Amy and said like, I want to choreograph a piece, or I'd love to teach a guest class or something, I would be one of the many people reaching out. If I'm reaching out to her with my book, that's unique and different, and it allowed like a more unique connection to be made. So like the places I've gotten to go with my book, I don't think, well, I hadn't yet had those opportunities to open as a choreographer or as a dancer. I, you know, often of course wonder if I didn't hit so many speed bumps, like how far could I have gone? But I also don't think that I'm done yet. I really don't. Like I think that I could start, I think I could perform again. I think I could, I haven't closed that chapter completely. And again, having my story out makes that easier than like trying to strive for something and not telling anyone about it. I don't know. I think I would say I would like to rethink going to grad school. I don't know if the grad school that I went to was really That's a big question mark for me, cause that really brought me down so much, and I kind of knew it was going to.
So why did you
I
attend?
don't, well, one was financially, it was a state school that gave me a big scholarship. I had the idea, I was still stuck in this old school mentality of like, things have to go like this. Okay, I have to get an MFA, because then I'm gonna get my dance company to be in a college, and I'm gonna have all these students, and they're gonna be in my company, and then all this stuff is gonna happen, so I just wanted to get that degree, so I could do that. But I remember, and I got my grad degree at SUNY Purchase. I remember visiting, I think this is in the book, I visited SUNY Purchase when I was an undergrad, and my dad was like, there's no way you're gonna go here. And my dad was like a tiger dad, and even he knew it wasn't gonna be. The audition to go, and I was already a professional choreographer at this point. I had to wear a black leotard and pink tights for that audition. Why did I do that to myself? Why? I don't know why I did that. Yeah, I don't, and did a ballet class with a black leotard and pink tights. And then the first day of school, they make you do that as well. And you're with the undergrads.
And how old were you? When you went?
30, 28 to 30 I was there. I mean, it was why did I think that and I wish that rather than trying to fit into this old school mold, I would have had the guts, or someone would have noticed to open me up more. But I just kept trying to shove myself into this mold that did not fit, clearly did not fit. Yeah, sorry, can you say your name?
Oh, Morgan.
Morgan.
I also work at Assistance.
Please don't start with I don't know how to work it, just let it run.
What was your process like growing as a choreographer and realizing that was something you were interested in, past just, performing?
So just like in the book, my teachers were like, you're not gonna make it as a ballet dancer, so try modern dance. And then I made a modern dance piece, Homeless. When I made that, and I got to perform it at the Nutcracker show, that was a huge deal. And it was like, oh, I could do my thing, get noticed for that. And then my teacher, well, in the book, she's Miss Lorraine. She really worked with me on my choreography, and I liked the attention of making something and doing it. I enjoyed that. And then as I went more in high school, I got more interested in moving other bodies around. But really, I was just using choreography as a vehicle so that I could dance, and I would be noticed for dancing, and I would be complimented for dancing. I think then, especially I went to tons of summer programs, and the summer programs I learned more the actual how to composition, and it was clear that I had an aptitude for it, and that felt good, and then that just kept going. But really, it was a vehicle for me to be able to perform, more than I'm Cara Talabot and I have something to say. I was saying watch me now, come on,
Talked about positive responses you've gotten to your book. Have you gotten any negative responses?
Oh my gosh, yeah.
How do you do?
It's, maybe this is a good thing, but when it comes to Amazon reviews, when the book first comes out, okay, now this can be a positive and a negative. Once the book comes out, any book comes out, it gets flooded with reviews. Some are verified purchases, they're not on Amazon, some of them are not. So the ones that are not bought on Amazon, they'll sometimes, in the beginning when they get a lot, they'll just not put them in at all. And then they'll kind of pick and choose. It's not so when you look at Amazon reviews, just take that with a grain of salt. So I had positive reviews that came in the beginning. Were some of those negative reviews not, I don't know, maybe they weren't verified purchases. I randomly went to my Goodreads recently, and this woman ripped me. Go and read it. It's it actually is funny at one point because she's she writes, it's something to the effect that she doesn't even know how my husband is with me.
What?
Oh, we should look it up. It's really bad. It's really bad. Yeah, look it up on your phone.
Sounds like a personal.
Yeah. Oh wait,
She
I don't know who she is.
It's one-sided.
It is.
Wow.
And you're not supposed to respond. In the beginning when Goodreads, because they put the Goodreads on first, so in the beginning you're just you're oh no, thank you, thanks for reading, or whatever. I responded, authors hey, don't do that. And this is why, because you want to, Respond, can you see it, Alec?
I sure can.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Read it,
Sharon?
read it, I don't know.
She is mocking, judging, and rating clients, is that the one?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
it.
She's mocking, judging, and rating clients in the first several pages, but I did not do the same thing and toss the book aside. Or did I do the same thing and toss the book aside? No, I did not. Written by an arrogant, narcissistic woman whose only goal is stardom and dance. Fortunately, she has parents who mollycoddled her egotistical behavior. Throughout the book, you practically grasp how gullible and easy to take advantage of her clients are. Absolutely sickening. I only hope that she grew up and found something resembling empathy for others. I feel sorry for her husband.
Oh my! Was she
She
one
sounds
of
like one of the girls.
East Side clients?
She did that because she's one of the girls I was meeting to in 5th grade, I don't
Yes.
know, but she definitely is not a fan.
That
That's
is
the worst.
so funny. She has no sense of humor.
I was
whatsoever.
I mean, it could be, it could be, I mean, it could be, I don't know who it is, but
She took it from.
yeah, so there's, and another thing that's, wait, who asked that? Okay, wait, so the question was, ask your question again, say it again.
Like, you've gotten negative responses and like, how do you deal with it?
Okay, you know what's worse than that though, for negative responses, is people who are in it that have not acknowledged it. That hurts. Like I have a couple of friends that I talk about that I don't even know if they've read. Like I sent everyone copy, if they agreed to have their name, they got something special from a publisher, they got free copy, like I did, you know, I gave them. And nothing. And that hurts. What? I'm seeing her tomorrow, Ashley, I'm seeing her tomorrow, don't worry. Yeah, she's coming up from Amsterdam, she's here now, I'm staying, or in a hotel with her tomorrow night. Yeah, she's a blessing in my life, but yeah, some other friends that I say their names, that really hurts.
I'm like, who is it? What's all
I can tell. Not just one, there's a few people, yeah.
I just wanted to say, I think in every response that I turned in, I was like, oh my god, something just like this happened to me.
Really?
And it was like on such a smaller scale because it was like in high school and I had two like 50-year-old women who had beef with me. And also, I think every single response I was like, oh my god, that is so similar to my like 15-year-old experience. And like nobody that I danced with ever had like any negative feelings to like dance or like the situation we were in or anything, and I was like, oh my god, I wasn't crazy.
You weren't crazy, you know what, I bet the other ones did too.
Yeah.
You know, that's what I really, it is really interesting. You know, I call her in the beginning of the book, now I'm forgetting what I call her. Spaghetti, what do I call her, spaghetti or something, similar to what her real name is. She's like a doctor, left dance, you know, she got into SAB, we were from a small town, she got into SAB, like her dance life was like unbelievable. And I think her looking back, cause I always thought she was like, whatever, this is great, you know, and she had pain that I didn't realize until now, really, when we were she was having pain at 9 years old. So you really don't assume, really, that other people, not to belittle your own story, because that's important, that we all have our own, you know, story. But be careful about assuming that the people around you are not experiencing something that could be similar. And like, what would it look like if we did actually talk about it? And I think your generation is much better about that, but you can still do it better.
I think some of you were talking about that feeling of like comparison, which dancers do all the time, is always the comparing, and then also realizing that, oh wait, I'm doing that, probably everyone else is doing that too, and then we're all in that same boat. And I think that's a great point that Kara brings up, is that, you know, if you were to voice all of this, we'd all realize that we're really all the same. We're all
We
the
all
same.
have our
We all have
things.
those same thoughts going through our head, but maybe slightly different nuance, because we're all different people with experiences and bodies. But theoretically, it is all the same. We all compare, because that's part of being a performance artist. But what makes that a success, what makes you a success, is gonna be your own journey. And I love the image of you putting all the chapters out in a room. You know, as you do things, you're sort of collecting those pages and you can lay them all out, and then maybe in your 30s, they start to make more sense in the through line. You can start to see a through line. So I think that is what Kara was saying too in her book is like, you know, looking back at it, don't worry about finding that through line right away. Like it can change. And there's a reason why you're doing what you're doing. So don't discount that, even though it might be negative. But I think the idea of like trying to swim on top of it is a good way to look at it. But also acknowledge that you're like, I'm in a position, doesn't feel quite right.
I think with that I think is so important is like figuring out what your superpower is, because you usually don't, it's so easy to you that you don't realize. I take for granted the fact that I come into a room with people that I don't know, that all of a sudden know everything about me, and I can walk in here and I feel very comfortable sitting down here and answering your personal questions. And not only do I feel comfortable, I enjoy it. But there's other people, and maybe there's people that are sitting in this room that would be their worst nightmare. But that's something, so I didn't realize that that's something that is my I take that for granted that that's easy for me to do. Another thing that I took very for granted as a dancer is that I never gained weight. I had this tiny little body. Yeah, the hamstrings were tight and it didn't work the way that I wanted it to, but I was always a skinny little blink, and I ate and I drank and I did everything. And poor Ashley, I think I talked about in the book, she gained 15 pounds when we became friends because of all the pizza and margaritas we were down. Okay? And that was hard for her. She was getting in trouble for gaining weight. No one said anything to me. That I didn't realize that I had that candy. So I think really it's not egotistical to go home tonight and maybe write down or maybe ask someone that you trust, like, what is it about me? And then go with those strengths. I never did that. As a choreographer, I did, in a way, but to really go with your strengths. I wish I knew I had strength to be a writer earlier on, or an author. That would maybe change my trajectory, or at least open me up a little bit. But what is it?
I think that's a great point, Kara. I feel like dancers really concentrate on their weaknesses way too much. You know, as you're dancing and you're in class, you should be concentrating about your strengths, as well as working on those, whatever those weaknesses are, but not like making your focal point about that weakness. It's such a weird thing that we set ourselves up for as dancers, is to constantly be berating ourselves for what we can't do versus what we can do. And I think we should write that down. Like, what is your superpower in your life, and what is your superpower within your dancing?
Yeah.
Especially before getting on that stage. Like, figure that out and live in that superpower, and forget about all those weaknesses, because it doesn't matter when you're on stage at all.
Your superpower on stage may be a power in your stance. You know, it may not, or it may be that you can kick your leg up so damn high. You know, every time that leg goes up, you're gonna kick. You know, whatever it is, whether it's physical or whether that's your thing.
Have you thought about writing another book, or were you kind of like felt concluded with everything?
Sorry, something in my eye. So I sort of flirting with this idea of like putting your heels down, which would be like a journaling type book. Which is kind of this is what Amy and I are kind of working on, and I just applied for this fellowship that maybe I'll get or maybe I'll get rejected. Either way, I'm gonna do it. To develop a curriculum for dancers using the book. So you guys are the beta group of this, and we left it very open, where you guys just were responding to chapters that spoke to you in some way, right? So this would be a more, whether it's through video or writing, I'm not sure. Maybe you can tell me if you have some ideas. I don't consider myself a writer. Like, I think I'm an author of this book. Maybe, things changed for me so dramatically after this book finished. I don't know that I don't think it would be a dance memoir, it would be something else. So maybe. I think I'm too in it to write about it right now.
Just an idea I had.
Oh, please.
If you were to implement it into a curriculum, let's say in a college like this, I think something that could be helpful would be like starting each class with like a verbal discussion, rather than like an assignment, at home sort of thing, because I think we benefit a lot from like talking and relating like this.
these assignments and then it's like not so much focused on. And
So if it's more in the moment, just
it's
like
in
this
the
is.
moment like this and we talk about it and relate and then, you know, maybe like an improv exercise or something that could like bring it
Oh,
into
moving that
dance,
into movement, that's
bring
interesting.
it into movement and then having class and like that positive like vibe of the class could be based on that discussion.
That's very interesting, thank you.
Kind of just going off of that, like adding in like the journaling aspect, like if you were to create that journal, like centering the class, if it was different than just your stereotypical like technique class, centering the class around mental health for dancers and like how to find the support that you need, how to support yourself. Because obviously you can't have a class that's like dancer therapy, but just ways that you can sort of promote emotional well-being as a dancer
Yeah,
specifically.
I love that, and so I did become, a couple of years ago, I got certified as a wellness and resilience coach. So I do coaching for dancers, that's something that I feel, I'm not a therapist. And the difference is that coaching only looks in the future, therapy looks at the past, that's like the biggest difference, between coaching and therapy, plus different education. But I love that. And I wonder if it wasn't a class, what if it was like a video? Like, what if I made videos that spoke a little bit, and then people could respond or not, either written or, so it would be like a community together, but more virtually, but not a writing, I hear what you're saying, I don't think it should be writing assignments, I don't necessarily think it should be that. And also in the same way you were, like, Amy wasn't going through and like grading and looking at your grammar, and, you know, you weren't worried?
No.
Okay. That it could just be like a stream of consciousness. Yeah.
Even like a podcast, like where you pick different topics to speak about. Like I know I enjoy podcasts, I know they're not for everybody, but where you talk about how this experience shaped me. And then it can be also more in the moment, so if you're like talking about that thing, with the choreographer where you're like, oh, this thing happened and it was odd, this is how it made me feel, et cetera, et cetera. So it's more of just like a vocal diary, but also having some other wellness aspect to it. I think that would be cool.
Cool, thank you for that.
Kind of just adding to that, even if you did like anonymous recommendations from people about what to speak about on like a podcast every time, because sometimes people have things they wanna talk about, but don't wanna say that it's them.
How would I solicit anonymous? Go to
Goodreads.
Goodreads.
Or run like a poll. Yeah, like a poll on Instagram.
A poll. Oh, okay. Oh, I can do that. Okay. I haven't done an Instagram poll before. I should do that. Poll on topics.
To discuss like during the video or the podcast.
But if it's a poll, can people write their idea, or does it just have to be voting? Okay.
There's like a poll option, and also you can ask questions, where people can type in whatever they want. So I can say like, I want you to talk about your experience choreographing, I want you to talk about your experience growing from
You do that on an Instagram post?
Wait, who's PR major?
Yeah. Help me out here.
Who's PR?
Story.
on stories.
Oh, on stories.
Yeah.
Intern. There we go.
I know I do need an intern if anyone is interested. I had two phenomenal interns that I don't have anymore, so if you are
Senior
interested,
practical.
thank you. And I'm amazing, I always, as soon as I finish with an intern, they get a letter of recommendation that I just give to them, and then if they ever need me to personalize it, of course I'll do that, but at least they lead with something. And the interns I was working with before got credit for their class, I don't know if you do that here. But I give, sign out on hours and do all that, so please.
Yeah, you could do senior practicum through me with her.
Oh my
right?
gosh, yeah, I need some major help.
Like, if you don't want to do like a poll on Instagram, you can do like a Google form and put in your bio on Instagram too.
Google form and the bio, that would be interesting, so you really like.
This is a good thing to do, I mean, if I can get it together in the next few days, for the anniversary of the book, to be like, looking into the next year, yeah.
You could also just like, if you wanted, like, need a chapter, like, in a video or a podcast or something, you have like a random guest that's not like Bill T. Jones, you know? Like somebody who like is a dancer, but like not like.
You mean, so sort of like, they read the chapter, and then you have a discussion, they
Yeah,
would discuss the chapter and things that happen in their life.
You know, it's so interesting that you say this, because I literally was just emailing this morning, there's this podcast called, I've done a few dance podcasts, and this other one just approached me called The Backstage Dancer. Did anyone listen to that one? And he wants me to do this thing where it's like 5 lessons from the book, and it is the
Oh,
first time where it
yeah.
actually is not just like, so that's interesting that you're saying that now.
Talk to somebody who's like, who has dance, but like isn't like famous or like
Yeah.
hasn't been in like a famous company.
That's good.
I love that.
Yeah.
Like, cause people like have shared experiences no matter where they end up. you know?
It's true, and I'm lucky to have those conversations personally, but it would be really cool to have
Mhm.
that conversation. I
Yes.
love that. And by the way, let this be a lesson to you that I asked you for help, and look at all of you perked up that didn't say anything before. And just let that be a lesson to you that I wish I learned earlier, to ask for help.
Mhm.
Because you get what you need so much faster. I literally just learned how to do a poll in stories. So just know that how great that is. And I really learned that a lot from being part of author communities as opposed to dance communities. Because dancers, we're supposed to have it all figured out 5, 6, 7, 8. Or at least look like we do, right? But authors, they have so many questions. They have so many questions. And they're so open about their questions. It's like cringy how open they are with them. Yeah.
I wanted to go back to like the podcasting and the curriculum thing, 'cause I really like that idea. I can understand why it's so challenging, like, you can't just be like, yes, I'm gonna add mental health and like wellness and coaching to the curriculum at this private institution, like, it's a far-fetched thing, and it's obviously something like we're trying to normalize and make it more attainable, but like, I just had a guest speaker in my last class before this about mental health and for athletes and such, and like, so I was like, I didn't know what's happening today, but perfect, it goes hand in hand, but like, if you wanna talk about like something someone is interested in, like the podcast, and you wanna like maybe make that podcast like a resource to add on top of the class, and like, here are some things for me as a dancer, like, help me meditate or create that space, or like, do you see where I'm going?
Yeah, I see where you're going at. You can kind of weave.
Yeah,
These
where it's
things
like, so
together.
instead of like, okay, I have to add this extra 2-credit course to my, like, my major to, in order to graduate, I have to take it, like, having it as a resource with all of these tools.
Right.
Cause like, we just talked about, like, oh, we can do like different meditation, like the tactile one, or like havening, or like alternate nostril breathing. Whereas like, just having those options and making a resource on top of, cause it's, we already do.
I like the word resource, although I just spelled wrong. Resource. Course, resource, course, I like the idea of being a resource, rather than a course. I think that's really interesting.
Even having like a research aspect where like I know because a lot of us I'm sure have like anxiety about like post-grad and like other things that you're interested in, like branching out. So a portion could be like finding other things you may be interested in, maybe doing a little bit of research on getting a Pilates certification or yoga certification, or companies that you may want to join and why, and maybe you like go see a show, you go take a class, something like that, to sort of ease that transition. I feel like that would be really beneficial for a lot of people.
Yeah. Thank you.
Postgrad, yeah.
Yeah. Are you handing or are you pairing? You're pairing. Thank you so much that's so helpful. I can go back to my questions that I had for you. Oh, I would love to know, and I know you spoke a little bit about this already, but what chapter or chapters stuck with you, or that you either related to or didn't relate to, but just sort of stuck out for you?
It's small, but, the one chapter you were able to go to say like 2 days a week or whatever.
Yeah.
Take classes. I was just like, that's what I wish would have happened for myself growing up. Like, I wish a door like that would have opened, cause I always felt like any opportunity to get a higher education that wasn't just like a recreational competition studio never opened for me, and my family couldn't afford it. And I did get some pretty awesome opportunities later, but I was just like, that is so, I was like, it's hope for a little girl.
Oh,
That was really
and
cute.
you know, it's interesting because one thing that I really did learn about myself before is how much privilege I had. And I knew I had privilege compared, like, I understood it, that like, and it made me feel bad about myself that like my parents bought me my first season. Like I didn't earn it, my parents paid for it. And that made me feel like very less than. And that was actually, I don't wanna say that was a superpower, but that was just a lucky family that I got born in, you know what I mean? And seeing that, and I didn't realize how fortunate that I was. Like I did all these summer programs, my parents paid for all these summer programs. You know, I never had scholarships, I never had, and it's interesting now as a parent, like I just went through the process of getting my daughter into middle school where I'm applying for scholarships and all this stuff, like I never did this before. I'm in a completely different financial position than my family was. And that's an interesting, sorry, that just sparked something, in me that how lucky I was to get on the train and go to Italy and take those expensive dance classes and be on that expensive, you know, train ride every Friday. That did not really occur to me when I was doing it. I was so focused on my own.
Could you not be here?
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just looking through my perspectives I did, and one of them that I talked about was from offer of tab. It was like a small thing, but it was like the difference between doing your best and doing your most. Because I feel like now I'm like, oh my gosh, I only have like a year left of college. I need to receive all the training I can while I'm here. So like I kind of been overworking myself and going to the city too many times to take dance classes, and it's just like made me rethink like quality over quantity, like making sure that I'm not overworking myself and that it's okay to take breaks and all that stuff.
That's the chapter that most people talk about. It was interesting when I was at the senior center, we talked about that, and just really remembering all of us that like sometimes the best can just happen. And it's not about the best and the most. I never woke up that morning and thought that I was gonna end up in the opera. I did wake up that morning and I was gonna try my best and my most in my dance classes and try to please my dad and please myself and please my teachers, you know, but I had no idea. And my dad and I went to the opera together, for his birthday, for his 70th birthday. I just took him to the opera, and we sat and we saw Carmen again. We saw Carmen again, and no, we didn't see Carmen online. I'm trying to remember what night we saw. Oh, La Traviata. But anyway, we lived having that moment years later. You know, we still talk about that. My dad was like the least spontaneous. It is the least spontaneous person on earth. But really just remembering that it may be on the train you meet, you know, Doug Verone happens to be on the train next to you. You know, it's not about taking that class. Yeah.
One of the chapters that I read that I like kind of, I don't know that I related to it exactly yet, but I think that it like gave me some perspective was Bader Pimpin, I believe. It was like, we were talking about like going from like different like cool Pilates clients and how we kind of had to like, you know, see them as like connections to get more and like kind of how we weren't happy with where we were, the clients we were working with, and the like environment we were working in, but they led you to meet somebody that then ended up, you met your husband, and
Yeah.
it was, you know, and it panned out really well. And the way that I did relate to it was like, a lot of the time I feel like I'm putting in all this work, and I'm like taking all the right steps, and I'm trying to do the right thing a lot of the time, and then it just like doesn't pan out, and people don't see me that way, and things just don't work out the way that they're supposed to. And it was like a reminder for me to just like, hey, you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You just keep doing that, it will work out the way it's supposed to. So that was kind of, yeah.
Alright, it really touched me. Like, I'm doing everything right. I'm doing everything right. Like, why isn't it working out for me when I'm doing everything right? It's so powerful, and it's so hard, because you can't see into the future, and just like sitting with that feeling, I could feel it, like I could feel myself like tearing up while you were saying it. And I think it's so important that we feed ourselves with whatever it is in the meantime, when we're doing everything right. You know, I think that's one of the things, I still teach Pilates, and we all know how I feel about Pilates. And one of the things that I realize makes it better for me to do is like, just like having a personal connection with a client. Or like half the back of my head, I just like feed myself like, what am I gonna do that thing again, when you know, here it is, you know? So I keep that, you know, I can make myself laugh. And it's so cheesy, and I don't know that I always believe this necessarily, that like, I am enough, you know, it is enough. It's hard to sit with that, while you're also like, I'm doing everything right, why isn't it working out for me? I think another way to look at it is I'm doing everything right, you know. We got so tunnel vision, like, I'm doing everything right, like, what's something that you feel like you do, like, I mean, just anyone, necessarily you're doing everything right. It could be something tiny to nail, like triple turn, to, you know, getting into a dance company, trying to make rent, I don't know, whatever it is. Like, if we just widen our vision, you know, if we widen out, rather than let this be like a lesson to you, don't keep tunnel visioning in more and more and more and more. If you just widen out, okay, I'm doing everything right to get my book published, but my book is still not getting published. So am I gonna keep trying the same ways to get published? Old hair, yeah, of course I am. I'm gonna do the same damn thing over and over again, just like I do plays over and over again. It's part of our training. But like, oh, what if I just like start reaching out to books that I like the author of and ask, hey, how'd you get published? Duh. That happened faster for me than all the, you know, and so I think when we just open up, what else can I do? Rather than I'm doing everything right and it's not working, okay, what else can I do? And I'm kind of learning through this conversation that a lot of it is asking for help. And we're not entitled to anything just because we work hard. Unfortunately. We'd be billionaires, right? It doesn't entitle us to health, it doesn't entitle us to, you know, success in whatever way. So I think just keep widening. I wanna dance with Doug Varone, we're gonna get his coffee every morning. I don't know, rather than going in, I don't know, what else? Maybe he needs dog sitter. Maybe there's another way in, rather than doing everything right. Do it different.
Yeah.
There we go. Yeah.
I'm Alexa. I think, the first discussion board post that I responded to was, the chapter where you talked about how growing up people always told you like you wouldn't be a ballet dancer, and then you like found modern dance and you were like, oh yeah, this is what I wanna do, and I felt very like connected with that because growing up, I was always told that I would never like be a ballet dancer because of like my height and I had no turnout and like this and that, and it would just be like really hard for me to hear, especially not only from like teachers but also from like my family. They'd be like, well, you can't do ballet, you're short, you can't do rock band, like what are you gonna do? And I'd be like, well, I don't know. And then like I got to high school and I like discovered modern dance and I started doing like coordinating and all different styles and I was like, oh this is it. So I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, maybe we all need to remember that. Suffering, trying to be the perfect ballerina, there was this other thing over here that you didn't know about yet, and then you found your way to it. And there could be another thing too, like maybe I'm gonna perform again, maybe I'm gonna be an actress. I don't think so. You know, I don't know, maybe I know I'm gonna get back on stage, that I know, I can tell you that right now, it's gonna happen before I leave this earth. But maybe I'm not gonna be dancing. Maybe I'll be giving a TED Talk. Maybe I'll be in a play. Maybe I don't know, sing. Maybe I'll give a commencement speech, I don't know, whatever it is. It could be this other thing, this other way.
Well, I think it's interesting too, Kara, that you started out in Pilates as a way to make money, but you're also helping people and they would come to you because you obviously did help them. And all of that is now turning into this, where you're a wellness coach and you're bringing it back to the dancers. So it's sort of a full circle in a way, but it was a different path to get you to this place.
Yeah, and I didn't realize that I got certified as a coach before I got a book deal. and I didn't realize how closely intertwined the two were going to be. And also during COVID is when I got certified, so I was coaching tons of dancers during COVID. What are we gonna do? You know, tons of career coaching. I didn't think I was gonna be doing resilience coaching. I mean, career coaching, I thought I was gonna be doing more resilience coaching, which is, it's the same thing, but, yeah, it's interesting. Anything else? How much do you have? Are we okay to talk a second longer? Okay. I wanna make sure there's time, if you want me to sign your books.
Yeah.
Um,
Maybe another 5 minutes.
Another 5 minutes talking, and then I would love to be able to sign your books for you. And also, I'll say this again, but I really want to stay connected to you, especially you're like such an important, like, our beta group. I've never been in a room before where everybody's read my book. That's really interesting. Usually I read something and then people respond to that, and like, you know, we'll go from there. Do any of you think you would ever write a book? Oh, yes. Yeah.
I don't think a memoir, but yeah.
What kind of book?
I think probably fiction, dystopian book.
Fiction? Nice.
I like writing, but I think I would just be complaining.
That's how I started. It was just a ranting. It was just ranting. It was me ranting.
Yeah.
So do it. I think it's important to get that stuff out. You know, better out than in. Don't show it to anyone unless, you know, you want to.
Really good.
I was actually gonna ask, like, where did you get, certified to be a resilience coach?
Oh, online. I did an online course. I can send you the information.
I was like looking to be like a mental health coach, I was like looking for programs, but like I couldn't like find one that I liked, so I was just.
Yeah, let me write it down for you, because I have to think it's the, it's Academy of Creative Coaching. I did a lot of research on this, and there's a lot of different levels of coaching, it's a whole like world, but coaching is great. And I like doing online, I love doing online course, I loved it. I think it's Academy of Creative Coaching. And I created my own, title, so that was, you were able to do that for this program, so they picked out, like, I didn't wanna just be a wellness coach, cause I didn't wanna do anything involving nutrition or anything like that. I'll tell you more about it later, but point being, there's a lot of opportunity, and coaching it's a great skill to have, to bring to your teaching, to bring to your, you know, it doesn't have to be like you just do that, it's a skill that you bring with you.
I have like a kind of personal question. So like I feel like financials with dance is always such a tough place. So like how did you come to accept Pilates and like as just a financial means? Like,
Working on that still. Work in progress. You know, book royalties are not, are just like dance. I mean, I just got a royalty check for $63 for the last quarter. I mean, you don't make money writing books. No, I mean, some books, fiction maybe. You know, it all depends. I don't wanna make a blanket statement. So how did I get comfortable with having to do something that I don't wanna do in order to pay the bills? I think I weighed the choices that I have, like, you know, and I still really struggle with that, because like, you know, I come from a family that is an upper class, whatever you wanna say, family, and, you know, I'm in a much different financial position than that can be very uncomfortable. I think I don't know. I don't know that I have an answer for you. I love that I have a book in the world. I love that you know, there's so many things that I love. It's like, okay, so I can't pay for blah, 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 but I have that, like, I weigh it a little bit. But I'm not gonna sit here and tell you that it's easy. And I will definitely tell you that I want to be making more money and I'm working on it. And like so that's a thing, right? Like you realize, I was talking to you about this, that I just worked on this whole admissions with my daughter in like private, New York City schools. And I'm really good at it, and I realize I'm not really good at it. So guess what kind of coaching I'm doing now? Admissions coaching. You charge a lot of money for that. And I never thought that I would do that before, but it has everything to do with dance. I'm like, I don't know how to go to all this, I don't know how to do all this stuff, I don't know how to write these essays, I don't know how to do all that stuff, this is easy. So, I think I'm still searching for ways that I can pay the bills, cause I also didn't marry someone that makes a lot of money.
Kara, have you ever had a full-time job? Full-time job?
No.
Never.
I have a question, sorry, I was wondering what.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
I've never had a full-time job. I've always done like,
Yeah.
PCPs.
So there is a way, it's hard. I've never had a full-time job either. Neither has my husband.
So can I say, I wanted to say that you know, your vision, like I like what you said before about that you see yourself on stage, you're not sure what you're gonna do. So for me, my vision, I mean, I never had a full-time job. I've been in the music business for 50 years and I'm still making a living at it. And I actually accomplished my greatest dream in life because of my vision. So to have that vision is really, and I didn't have a clue as to how I was gonna accomplish what meant the world to me, but it happened.
It does, and I think it's also important, like, you have to get yours, like, I teach kids, and I never thought that I would still teach kids, like, the reason I went to Purchase, because I didn't wanna teach kids anymore, I wanted to teach in university. I get paid so much more teaching children than I do, sorry. Because the DOE has 3K and universal pre-K, and they're getting all this money goes in, I make much more than my friends that are teaching at universities. And every class, everything I do, I make sure I play this music that I love, I get mine. Like, you gotta get yours, like, whether it's a paycheck or it's the joy in your heart, whatever it is, when you're playing, you gotta get yours, you gotta play. I'm sure you don't play music that you hate, well, that you have to get yours.
Everything
Yeah,
I
you have to
play,
get yours, you have to get yours, whether that's people that hate their jobs and make billions of dollars, it's the same thing. So, I guess making sure that there's a pay, that, like, you're paid in something for your mental health. Maybe it doesn't buy you a yacht, but it buys you, peace and a big smile. Well, does anyone else have anything else to say? So I'd love right now, if you have a book, I'm happy to sign it for you. I did bring books to sell, I know you all have it already. And I also, for the, I have the, sorry, I lost my train of thought, the mailing list, if you want to give me your email, but please DM me on Instagram, stay in constant contact with me, I love, like, this gives me great joy. And if you feel like you wanted to say something today and didn't want to say it in front of the group, DM me, you should see something on my bed, it's amazing. And a lot of times, you know what happens, no joke, I leave the college, I get on the thing, and then I have like one or two, and it's like, oh, that's so cool. Because that's what it's really about, and I just am really grateful for all of you, and thank you so much, and thank you so much to Amy, like, this is such a cool so feel free to come on over to me, I'll sign, I'll talk to you, I'll give you more information for coaching. Did you find it? Okay.
Thank you so much, Kara.
My pleasure, thank you.
So go find your superpower for tonight.
Yeah, and have a great show, everybody.